Last year, a software engineer named Kevin decided to run an experiment. He took his 4-year-old smartphone, the one he'd been convinced was hopelessly outdated, and performed a factory reset. He cleared all the accumulated data, removed the apps he never used, and started fresh with only the applications he actually needed. The phone that had been sluggish, frustrating, and seemingly dying transformed overnight. Apps loaded quickly. The battery lasted most of the day. The camera still took excellent photos. The device he was certain needed replacing worked almost as well as the day he bought it. Kevin calculated what he'd saved by not upgrading. The new model he'd been eyeing cost $1,200. With a typical 2-year payment plan, he would have paid $50 monthly plus higher insurance premiums. Over the next 2 years, keeping his old phone would save him approximately $1,400. Then Kevin started questioning everything. If his phone wasn't actually obsolete, what else had he been convinced to replace unnecessarily? His laptop that felt slow? His tablet that seemed outdated? His wireless earbuds that weren't the newest model? What Kevin discovered is something that tech companies have perfected over 2 decades: the upgrade illusion. A sophisticated system of psychological manipulation, planned obsolescence, and manufactured dissatisfaction designed to convince you that functional devices need replacing. Today, I'm going to expose exactly how this illusion works, the specific tactics companies use to make your devices feel obsolete before they actually are, and a framework for determining when an upgrade genuinely makes sense versus when you're being manipulated into unnecessary spending. Let me start with the most insidious tactic: software-induced obsolescence. Your smartphone from 3 years ago has the same processor it had when you bought it, the same memory, the same storage capacity. The physical hardware hasn't degraded in any meaningful way, yet the phone feels dramatically slower than when it was new. This isn't your imagination. It's by design. Each operating system update adds features that consume more processing power and memory. Your old hardware runs software designed for newer, more powerful chips. The result is gradual performance degradation that feels like hardware failure, but is actually software bloat. Apple paid $113 million to settle a lawsuit over deliberately slowing older iPhones through software updates. The company claimed the slowdowns protected aging batteries from unexpected shutdowns. Critics argued the slowdowns conveniently coincided with new iPhone releases and pushed users toward upgrades. Regardless of intent, the effect is identical. Software updates transform fast phones into slow phones, functional devices into frustrating ones. Users experience this degradation and conclude their hardware is failing when the hardware remains perfectly capable. The solution Apple implemented, battery replacement rather than phone replacement, costs approximately $89. The solution most users chose was a $1,000 new phone. The $911 difference represents pure profit extracted through manufactured obsolescence. Android devices face similar dynamics. Google's Pixel phones receive software updates for 7 years now, but most Android manufacturers provide only 2 to 3 years of updates. After updates stop, security vulnerabilities accumulate. Apps begin requiring newer operating system versions. The phone still works, but feels increasingly isolated from the ecosystem. This planned obsolescence extends far beyond phones. Microsoft ended support for Windows 10 in 2025, pushing users toward Windows 11. But Windows 11 requires specific hardware features that many perfectly functional computers lack. A 5-year-old laptop running Windows 10 flawlessly suddenly becomes a security risk, not because anything changed about the laptop, but because Microsoft decided to stop supporting it. The obsolescence is entirely artificial, created by corporate decisions about software support rather than hardware limitations. Smart home devices face even more aggressive obsolescence cycles. Nest discontinued support for older thermostats. Sonos bricked functional speakers through software decisions. Amazon routinely ends support for Echo devices after a few years. The pattern repeats across every category of connected device. The second major tactic involves feature marketing that creates artificial inadequacy. Every year, smartphone manufacturers announce new features with breathless excitement: better cameras, faster processors, brighter screens, longer battery life. The marketing implies that last year's model is now inadequate because it lacks these improvements. But examine the actual improvements and a different picture emerges. Smartphone cameras have reached a point of diminishing returns for most users. The difference between a 2023 flagship camera and a 2026 flagship camera is imperceptible in normal use. Professional photographers pixel peeping at 400% zoom can identify differences. People posting to Instagram cannot. Processor improvements follow similar patterns. Each generation delivers perhaps 15 to 20% faster speeds. But for what? Browsing the web? Sending messages? Watching videos? These tasks required only a fraction of processing power available 5 years ago. The additional speed provides no practical benefit for typical use cases. Battery life improvements often simply offset the increased power consumption of larger screens and more demanding software. The net experience remains roughly constant even as specifications improve. Yet the marketing creates a perception gap between what you have and what's available. This perception gap generates dissatisfaction with functional devices. The dissatisfaction drives purchasing decisions that benefit manufacturers while draining consumer wallets. The third tactic involves ecosystem lock-in that makes switching costly and upgrades convenient. Apple perfected this approach. Your iPhone connects seamlessly to your iPad, which syncs effortlessly with your MacBook, which integrates perfectly with your Apple Watch. Moving to Android means losing that integration. Moving to Windows means rebuilding your workflow. The ecosystem creates friction against leaving while eliminating friction for upgrading within the family. When your iPhone feels slow, Apple makes upgrading simple. Your new phone downloads everything from your old phone automatically. Your apps reappear, your settings transfer. The experience is frictionless in the direction Apple wants you to move, which is toward newer, more expensive devices. Google, Samsung, and Microsoft have built similar ecosystems with similar lock-in effects. The pattern is industry-wide because it works. This ecosystem stickiness compounds over time. Each additional Apple device increases switching costs. Each year of photos in iCloud makes leaving more painful. Each family member on the same platform creates social pressure against individual defection. The ecosystem strategy transforms technology purchases from independent decisions into systemic commitments. Once you're inside the system, upgrading feels natural, while staying still feels like falling behind. The fourth tactic involves social signaling and status anxiety. Technology companies have successfully positioned devices as status symbols. Having the newest phone signals success, sophistication, and relevance. Having an older phone signals the opposite, regardless of financial situation or needs. This status dimension transforms technology purchases into identity statements. You're not buying a communication tool, you're buying a signal about who you are and where you stand in social hierarchies. The effect is particularly powerful among younger consumers. Research shows teenagers experience genuine social anxiety about having older phone models. They report feeling embarrassed, excluded, and judged based on their devices. This anxiety drives purchasing decisions that have nothing to do with functionality. Parents face pressure to provide children with current devices regardless of financial implications. The cost of being seen as unable to afford new technology often exceeds the cost of the technology itself in terms of social consequences. Workplaces create similar dynamics. Showing up to meetings with older laptops can signal being out of touch or unsuccessful. The perception matters, even when the older device performs identically to newer alternatives. Technology companies cultivate this status dimension through design choices. Each generation looks visibly different from the previous generation. Color options, materials, and form factors change specifically so devices can be identified by age at a glance. If nobody could tell whether your phone was 1 year old or 3 years old, the status signaling would collapse. The fifth tactic involves artificial scarcity of repair options. Devices that could be repaired cheaply instead get replaced entirely because manufacturers have made repair prohibitively difficult. Batteries, the component most likely to degrade, are often glued into devices rather than made replaceable. A $30 battery replacement becomes a $300 service appointment or a $1,000 new device. Screens, the component most likely to break, require specialized tools and proprietary parts. Third-party repair shops face legal challenges, parts restrictions, and software locks that prevent unauthorized repairs. Apple's serialization strategy links specific components to specific devices. Replace your screen with an identical part from another iPhone and features stop working. The phone detects the unauthorized component and degrades functionality to push you toward Apple's expensive repair services, or better yet, replacement. Right to repair legislation has begun addressing these practices, but manufacturers continue fighting to maintain control over repair ecosystems. The stakes are enormous. Every successful repair is a delayed upgrade. Every device kept functional for another year is a new device not purchased. The financial impact of repair restrictions compounds over years of device ownership. A household that replaces rather than repairs might spend an additional $5,000 to $10,000 per decade, compared to one that maintains devices as long as genuinely functional. The sixth tactic involves subscription models that extract ongoing revenue regardless of hardware status. Software companies have shifted from one-time purchases to subscription models. Adobe Creative Suite once cost a flat fee for permanent ownership. Now, Adobe Creative Cloud costs $55 monthly forever. Microsoft Office followed the same path. So did countless other applications. This shift changes the economics of device ownership fundamentally. Previously, you could use old software on old hardware indefinitely. Now, stopping subscription payments means losing access regardless of device capability. The subscription model also enables more aggressive feature updates that push hardware requirements higher. When you're paying monthly, the company has less incentive to support older systems. They can simply require newer hardware as a condition of continued subscription. Cloud storage creates similar dynamics. Free tiers fill quickly, push users toward paid storage. Once you're paying for storage, your photos and documents effectively become hostages. Leaving means migrating gigabytes or terabytes of data to alternative services. The aggregate effect of subscription creep is remarkable. A household might pay $50 monthly for cloud storage, $30 for software subscriptions, $15 for device protection plans, and $20 for streaming services that require current devices. That's $1,380 annually in recurring technology costs beyond the devices themselves. Now, let me show you the mathematics of upgrade cycles that make this concrete. Consider a typical smartphone upgrade pattern. Many consumers replace phones every 2 years, sometimes more frequently. Let's compare that against a 4-year cycle. 2-year cycle at $1,000 per device over 20 years. 10 phones totaling $10,000. 4-year cycle at $1,000 per device over 20 years. 5 phones totaling $5,000. The $5,000 difference, invested at 7% annual returns over 20 years, grows to approximately $10,250. The upgrade cycle choice alone creates a 5-figure wealth difference. Now, apply similar logic to laptops. Many users replace laptops every 3 to 4 years. A laptop capable of running current software typically lasts 6 to 8 years with basic maintenance like battery replacement and storage upgrades. 3-year cycle at $1,500 per device over 18 years. 6 laptops totaling $9,000. 6-year cycle at $1,500 per device over 18 years. 3 laptops totaling $4,500. The $4,500 savings, invested similarly, produces thousands more in long-term wealth. Aggregate across all device categories, and the lifetime impact becomes substantial. Smartphones, laptops, tablets, smartwatches, wireless earbuds, smart home devices. Each category with its own upgrade cycle. Each cycle with its own unnecessary frequency for most users. A household that extends every device lifecycle by 50% might save $2,000 to $3,000 annually. Over a working lifetime, those savings compound to 6 figures. The opportunity cost of unnecessary upgrades represents one of the largest hidden drains on middle-class wealth. It's not dramatic like a market crash or obvious like high-interest debt. It's a slow leak that persists for decades, transferring wealth from consumers to technology companies, one upgrade at a time. Let me give you a framework for distinguishing genuine obsolescence from manufactured obsolescence. Ask yourself 5 questions before any technology upgrade. First, what specific task can I not accomplish with my current device? Not what's slower or less elegant, what's actually impossible. If you can identify specific functionality you need that your current device cannot provide, That's a potential legitimate upgrade. If you can only identify things that would be slightly better, that's manufactured dissatisfaction. Second, have I performed basic maintenance on my current device? Factory resets, battery replacements, storage cleanups, and software optimizations can restore performance dramatically. Many devices diagnosed as obsolete are simply cluttered. Third, is the upgrade solving a problem or creating a want? Problems have specific manifestations. My phone battery dies by 2 p.m. My laptop can't run the software my job requires. My tablet won't connect to my school systems. Wants are vague dissatisfactions. My phone feels slow. My laptop seems outdated. My tablet isn't the newest model. Fourth, what's the actual cost over the device's lifetime? Include not just purchase price, but accessories, cases, protection plans, and the opportunity cost of money invested elsewhere. Seeing the true cost often reveals that the upgrade isn't worth the expense. Fifth, am I responding to genuine need or social pressure? Be honest about whether the upgrade impulse comes from practical limitations or from feeling behind peers. Social pressure is real, but isn't a financial reason to spend. This framework won't eliminate all upgrades. Sometimes new technology genuinely provides capabilities worth paying for, but it filters out the impulse purchases driven by manufactured obsolescence rather than actual need. Let me share some specific strategies for extending device lifespans. For smartphones, the biggest killer is battery degradation. Batteries naturally lose capacity over charge cycles. After 2 to 3 years, a battery that once lasted all day might only last until afternoon. But battery replacement typically costs $50 to $100, either through manufacturer service or third-party repair. Compare that to $800 to $1,200 for a new phone. The math overwhelmingly favors replacement. Optimize charging habits to slow degradation. Avoid letting batteries drain to zero or charge to 100% constantly. Keep devices cool during charging. Use slower chargers when time permits. These practices can extend battery life significantly. Perform regular storage cleanups. Full storage degrades performance across all device functions. Delete unused apps, clear caches, remove old photos and videos to cloud storage or external drives. The performance improvement from freeing storage often mimics getting a new device. For laptops, storage upgrades provide dramatic performance improvements. Replacing a hard drive with a solid-state drive can make an 8-year-old laptop feel nearly new. The cost runs $50 to $150 depending on capacity. The performance gain rivals buying a new machine. Memory upgrades similarly extend laptop usability. Many laptops allow RAM expansion. Doubling memory from 8 to 16 gigabytes costs perhaps $50 and enables running modern software smoothly. Keep laptops physically clean. Dust accumulation causes overheating, which triggers thermal throttling that slows performance. Regular cleaning or occasional professional service maintains thermal efficiency and performance. For tablets, recognize that most tablets are consumption devices rather than production devices. Watching videos, reading, and browsing don't require cutting-edge specifications. A 5-year-old tablet handles these tasks as well as a current model. Consider what you actually use tablets for before upgrading. If the answer is Netflix and email, virtually any functional tablet suffices. The newest iPad Pro is extraordinary, but irrelevant if you never use the capabilities that justify its price. For smart home devices, question whether you need them at all. Each connected device adds complexity, security vulnerabilities, subscription potential, and future obsolescence. Sometimes the smartest home decision is fewer smart devices. Let me address when upgrades genuinely make sense despite everything I've said. Professional requirements sometimes mandate current equipment. A video editor needs processing power that older machines cannot provide. A photographer needs camera capabilities that older phones lack. A developer needs memory and storage that older laptops cannot accommodate. If your income depends on device capabilities, upgrades become investments rather than consumption. The calculation changes from, "Do I want this?" to, "Does this generate returns exceeding its cost?" Security considerations sometimes justify upgrades. Devices no longer receiving security updates become vulnerable to exploits. For devices storing sensitive financial or personal information, security updates matter. However, security concerns are often overstated for typical users. Actual exploitation of consumer devices through security vulnerabilities remains relatively rare. The security argument sometimes serves as rationalization for desired upgrades rather than genuine risk mitigation. Physical damage beyond economical repair sometimes justifies replacement. A shattered screen costing $400 to repair on a phone worth $300 makes replacement logical. But get actual repair quotes before assuming damage requires replacement. Genuine capability gaps occasionally emerge. New software might require hardware your device lacks. New accessories might not connect to older systems. New requirements at work or school might mandate specific capabilities. The key is distinguishing genuine capability gaps from preference gaps. I need video conferencing for my new job, and my camera is broken, is a capability gap. My phone camera is slightly worse than current models, is a preference gap. Let me talk about the environmental dimension that often gets ignored. Electronic waste represents one of the fastest growing waste streams globally. Millions of functional devices enter landfills annually because consumers believed those devices were obsolete. The environmental cost of manufacturing replacement devices is substantial. Mining rare earth minerals, processing materials, manufacturing components, assembling devices, and shipping globally all generate environmental impact that continues regardless of whether the replaced device still functions. Extending device lifespans by even 1 year across a population would eliminate millions of tons of electronic waste and prevent the environmental costs of millions of replacement devices. This isn't primarily an argument about personal virtue. It's context for understanding the full cost of upgrade cycles. The price tag captures only the financial dimension. The environmental dimension represents additional cost externalized onto the broader world. Companies have begun responding to these concerns with recycling programs and sustainability commitments. Apple touts recycled materials. Samsung promotes trade-in programs. But these programs exist within a business model fundamentally dependent on replacement cycles. The tension between sustainability messaging and planned obsolescence remains unresolved. I want to leave you with a perspective shift that might change how you relate to technology. We've been trained to see technology as fashion. New seasons bring new styles. Last year's model becomes this year's embarrassment. Keeping current requires constant purchasing. This framing serves manufacturers perfectly. It transforms durable goods into consumables. It creates recurring revenue from devices that could last years. It extracts maximum wealth from consumers who internalize the fashion mindset. The alternative framing sees technology as tools. Tools get evaluated on whether they accomplish required tasks. A hammer doesn't become obsolete because a newer hammer exists. A functional hammer remains functional regardless of what's available at the hardware store. When you see devices as tools rather than fashion, the upgrade calculus shifts entirely. The question becomes whether your current tool accomplishes what you need, not whether better tools exist. Better tools always exist. That's the nature of technological progress. But needing a tool and wanting a better one are fundamentally different states. Conflating them is exactly what manufacturers want. The person who recognizes their 3-year-old phone as a functional tool rather than an outdated fashion item saves money while experiencing no practical deprivation. They redirect resources toward things that actually improve their lives rather than chasing marginal improvements in pocket computers. The upgrade illusion persists because it works, because we've internalized technology as fashion framing, because social pressures reinforce constant upgrading, because companies have perfected the manufacturing of dissatisfaction. Breaking the illusion requires conscious effort, questioning upgrade impulses, performing maintenance before replacing, evaluating actual needs rather than manufactured wants, recognizing status anxiety for what it is. The reward for that effort is substantial. Thousands of dollars saved, resources redirected toward genuine priorities, freedom from the constant feeling that what you have isn't enough. Your devices are probably fine. The illusion says otherwise. Now you know how the illusion works. What you do with that knowledge is up to you.